All right, Arvin, we're back again today. Got a cool topic, user permissions. So hopefully this is something every seller knows about. If you have multiple people on your team, you probably are already using user permissions, but I think it's important we cover this one for the security of your Amazon account, but also, you have to be able to navigate permissions, know who and when to give those out. And we can maybe also talk about app integrations as well, because it's kind of within the same vein. But I guess, first off, how are you doing? And can you kind of give us an overview of user permissions from your perspective?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yep, I'm doing great. So user permission is actually something that you have, like, of course, if you're a seller, you have your own account, which is the main email account that you registered on Amazon in order for you to sell on Amazon. Whether it be through Seller Central or maybe on Vendor Central. And when we're talking about user permission, is only when you, like, say, have someone else like that you hire, maybe your virtual assistant, or maybe someone's working on the 3PL that have a secondary user that you invited to have access to your Seller Central account, then that's where the user permission will come into the picture by giving them access to certain permissions like the catalog management, inventory management, FBA settings, case logs, and all others that is within the user permission. But then again, aside from that normal user permission, there is also this updated global permission where all of these dashboards that and metrics that Amazon just recently added on Seller Central, including the FBA shipment performance, the brand analytics, and all that reporting, you can access that through the user permission under the global access.
Right.
So just
So,
the
sorry, go ahead.
general overview.
Yeah. So
Yeah, of
what's the
course. Carry on.
difference? Well, what's the difference between global permissions and the standard user permissions?
Well, actually, like if you have a VA, depends on who you will be giving access to, right? So if let's say you have a VA, they only need certain access, for example, buyer messages, because they will be the one to respond to customers, especially if you're an FBM seller. And then also if that person that you hire will just be creating listings in your behalf through flat file or to manually adding listings, those access and permission, you can just it just be under the standard user permission. However, the global access is more of like the advanced permission that can be used for reports, analysis, understanding the metrics, and seeing like the performance of the account. So it's Amazon just separated in there the
Sure.
two, like, before you can just access everything through the standard user permission.
Sure. So the email that you use to sign up for a Seller Central account, that's going to be kind of the master admin email that has global access, and that's normally the one that stays the same the entire time. The second you add someone else, it's called a sub user, right? And that's where this would come into play. And, again, just to reiterate what you said, if you're adding, your agency or a 3PL, another partner, or maybe you have a temporary contract worker coming on, that's where you're going to utilize various permissions. And I mean, I think the rule of thumb is obviously you want to be safe and careful with these. So only give user permission access to people that you trust. I think
Yeah.
just a question for you is like, does if I hire a contractor or an agency, do they need all the permissions? Like, should I just so when we're talking about permissions, we have the ability to give people access to advertising, growth, inventory. I'm just looking at my user permission settings over here: orders, performance, reports, settings, store design, payments, all that stuff. When when you hire someone to bring them on, do they need access to everything, or do you normally kind of do it depending on what they're going to be working on? If maybe that person's just doing design or just doing flat files, then you know,
Yeah. Well, again, that's a really good question. But to answer it, it depends on what the role or what are they gonna do within your Amazon business. And we talked about this before. Like, even before you start hiring someone, you need to know in what area would you need them. Like, for example, are they going to be a bookkeeper? Are they going to just manage your catalog? Are they going to handle their PPCs? If they are in the position where they have to oversee everything, then yeah, you have to at least give him user permission. Just make sure that you trust, because it's already that a trusted person, because of course it's the security of your selling account that is at risk. There will be information that they can update, like for example, maybe the credit card information, or maybe the account details.
Yeah.
So of course the account information is something that only the main the registered email account can update, but there's also still a risk that someone else can actually hack your account, especially if the person that you hired is actually not careful whenever they are logging into their seller central account. So yeah, again, to answer the question, it depends on what role they'll be doing on their business, and it's always, for me, it's always important to limit their access to the role that they will do on your Amazon business.
Sure. And I guess kind of a follow-up question to that, you know, how often could you be checking and kind of updating, user permissions, or like maybe doing an audit of your account?
I don't know. I would say regularly. I mean, you don't really need to check it from time to time, because like for example, that if that person that you hire will, let's say for example, would need something that is not granted to him yet, then you're gonna always just ask you for an access. So it's for you to decide, should I give this person an access to this one, or can I just give it temporary, and then I can revoke the access after. So, but again, Amazon's always changing, so there are some certain permissions that Amazon will transfer from standard permission to the global access, so you have to update it. Then also there will be some access or permission that Amazon will just remove because it doesn't make sense anymore, so they will just randomly change it. Or maybe before they have a view access, now they don't have the view edit access because they need to edit something on the back end. So check it regularly if you can, as long as you didn't give them the user permission access, or which is like the admin access for them to edit it from time to time. So as the business owner, if you hire someone that you trust, that you give them the admin access, then I would say still check it, even though you trust that person, just to make sure that no one from like the team that you hire will cause harm on your seller central account, because
Yeah.
it's really hard to recover it.
Yeah, I think just to comment on a couple things, I think number one is depending on how many people you have, and I've seen some accounts where there's only two people as sub users, and maybe the master, and but then I've seen other accounts where there's 20 or 30 people listed in that account with various levels of access. And so, especially if you have a lot of people kind of in and out of your Amazon account, I would recommend doing a check like once a month, even to make sure those people still need to be in there. I've worked with, and I'm sure you're the same, but like I've been in so many Amazon accounts where they have agencies that they previously worked with from years prior that still have access, and yeah, and that's kind of a red flag, right? And I think it's just because people forget to make those updates. It's a simple update, but it also, and most people are good people and aren't going to do anything, but you don't want to risk your Amazon business and your well-being. So I think the other two last things, couple like important ones, the ones that I always think about that maybe you want to have an extra like level of security on are, first, giving someone access to the user permission settings, so the ability to add other sub users. That's when you should definitely be, put some consideration into. If you give someone that ability, they're pretty much become a super user and can edit all their permissions and their own. I think the other ones beyond that, are going to be like having access to the tax documents, seller fee invoices, payments, payment methods, like those types of things. So again, really consider what the person who you're adding to the account is going to be doing within your business. Is there anything you want to add to that, or anything else that you think Amazon sellers or brand owners should be kind of wary of?
Yeah, I think the only thing is that to some the user permission is something that is not like important, but as you said, yeah, it is something that you have to regularly check just to make sure that that the access of your employees or the contractors are just right enough for the role that you hired them for, or also the former agencies or maybe even your former employee that still have access to your seller central account. Make sure that you remove them because we don't know what they can do on your seller central account. So it's something that we should be really looking after as
Yeah.
a seller.
Cool. And I think just the one other one, just since we're on it and it's in kind of the same portal. So if you go to settings and user permissions, two things actually. One, you can go and always check the user permission logs. So user permission history, which can be helpful if you know, are an agency and you're wondering why all of a sudden you are working with a client and they revoked some access or you don't have certain permissions. That's helpful. Same with if you're the brand owner to see if someone else made changes. That's useful. And then the other one though is third-party apps. This page is, you know, below where you add sub-users to the account is also where you would add new applications. So if you're using Helium 10 or Jungle Scout or, you know, whatever the tool is, you know, that's where you add those as well. Do you want to touch on anything there or, you know, I don't know that it's pretty straightforward process, but yeah.
Yeah, well, integrating an app, it depends of actually, let's say if you really need it. And so, of course, you just have to integrate it. Also, your app will notify you if you need to reintegrate something or if there's any update that needs to happen on the integration. Because on their end, Amazon is also constantly changing, so they have to adapt to whatever that change is. So then it will notify you is to do this reintegration because this is what's gonna happen. So just make sure that as a seller, don't just click anything because sometimes maybe you think that it is the app that you integrated, but it's actually a spam or a scam rather, and then you click it and then your account that got hacked. So just double check those. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing. It's just more of security.
Sure. And I think with the last thing to say there too, I think with a lot of the third-party apps, they every year it'll force you, and normally you get an email, but that the access is about to expire and you can renew it or reauthorize it rather. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, I think the main theme here is obviously be careful with who you add and what permissions you give them, and then probably do an audit on a semi-regular basis, whether it's monthly because you have a ton of people, or maybe you don't have that many people and maybe it's once a year even once every couple months. But yeah. So I think that's it on my side. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this one up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing more. Actually,
Cool.
yeah, for sure. There's a lot more to discuss, but yeah, let's reserve it for later.
Sounds good. So thanks again for anyone watching. If you do have questions, leave them in the comments below, or you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'll put links to everything mentioned down below in the description. So that's it for this video. We'll see you at the next one.